Welcome again to the 5-Minute Sunday School. We're still on our theme for 2020, God in the Administration of Man. Unit 2 is where we are, and our lesson today is lesson 6. So today's lesson says, Ehud and Deborah judge God's people. Ehud and Deborah judge God's people. And our memory verse is taken from Psalm chapter 44 verse 5. Through you we will push down our enemies. Through your name we will trample those who rise up against us. This shall be so for you in Jesus' name. We have trimmed down the objectives for this lesson into 2. So at the end of this lesson, we should be able to show that God can use anybody to show that He cares for His people, and He can use anyone to accomplish its eternal purpose. Secondly, we should be able, at the end of the lesson, to be more available to take up leadership responsibilities in leading God's people into God's own purpose. So in today's lesson, we'll be looking at 2 characters. In division 1, we'll be looking at Ehud, the left-handed. And in the second division, we'll be looking at that woman, Deborah. Now, there is something common to these characters, and it is that they may be somewhat awkward, or should I say, unique in themselves. The first is a left-handed man, and the second, a woman. Let's see how God uses the unexpected or the unimagined to fulfill His purpose. So today we'll be looking at Ehud, the left-handed. Under this division, we will look at 2 ways that Ehud helped. First, he took up a challenge, and then he led the people. So, what challenge did Ehud take up? So the story for this lesson is taken from the book of Judges chapter 3 from verse 12 to 23. The people again went astray as usual, and they get punished and subdued under their enemies for a good number of years, 18 years to be precise. Then they called on God. They repented of their sins, and we know God is merciful, and as He promised, He keeps forgiving and delivering. This time, He answers with Ehud. Ehud was left-handed, but that would not stop him. Many of us look down on the left hand, and in our culture, the left hand is often referred to as lazy. Many parents try to force their children away from making the left hand their main hand of use, but God does not discriminate. So what was the challenge that Ehud took up? Israel had been serving their punishment under Eglon, the Moabite king. In humility and helplessness, they called upon God. Our world today is in a state of helplessness. We need to get answers, and so we should get humble and call on God. God promises to heal our land when we call upon Him. With God's response to Israel's cry, Eglon was to be taken out, and Ehud, the son of Gera, was the one who decided to take up the challenge of doing the job. Now, he was innovative in the execution of the job. He didn't go with a usual sword or spear. He crafted out a tool specific for the job. Now, God cannot be limited in the way He carries out His tasks. The way He used Joshua was different from the way He used Moses. And Ehud would also carry out his task in a way that was different from Othniel. Now, Ehud carried out his job in a subtle and cunning manner. He tricked his way to Eglon, made him send out his guards, and finally thrusted the dagger into Eglon's abdomen. You can read the story up in Judges chapter 3. Now, it took courage and wisdom to get the job done. God provided them. It takes wisdom to fight life's battle. So, seek God's wisdom. So, let's quickly look at the second part. Ehud helps to lead the people of God. So, we'll look at verses 24 down to 30 of Judges chapter 3. Ehud got the job done and he quietly escaped. Again, God protected him and provided a way of escape. The guards had been clearly fooled. Ehud went back to his people. It was time to lead them to battle. He would not attribute victory to his strength or his wisdom. Instead, he announced, "The Lord has delivered your enemies into your hands." And when he called them to follow, they did not hesitate. God gave him a voice among the people. They were motivated by the victory over Eglon. They battled and subdued Moab. They get their freedom once again. Now, thanks to God for using a ready vessel. God often begins his work by calling one man and inspiring others through him. Will you be ready to be that man that God will raise in this time? So finally, our lessons learned. God can use anyone, anywhere, anytime, anyhow. And he does not need a committee to determine how he is going to do that. Secondly, if you think that God cannot use you because of a perceived weakness that you have, don't be surprised that your weakness is what God will use to subdue the enemy and take glory for himself. Get ready to be used. I hope you were able to learn a lot from today's 5-minute Sunday school. Let's meet again next week, and don't forget to subscribe. God bless you.